somebody petitions the court to basically become in charge of a person's money and their healthcare decision making, on where they're going to live, on a whole range of things.
What do you need to know about conservatorships in California? We're going to find out right now on this episode of Ask the Lawyer. And my guest is California attorney Vinny Casiano. I want to remind you that if you want to ask Vinny questions about your situation, it's easy. Go to askthelawyers.com, click the button up top that says Ask a Lawyer, or you can always call the phone number you'll see at the top of the screen. Vinny, thanks for joining us today.
It's good to be back with you, Molly.
Conservatorships have been in the news recently, mostly due to issues regarding Britney Spears' case. So let's start at the beginning. What is a conservatorship in California?
Yeah, Britney Spears, that's a California conservatorship, and it's gotten a lot of bad press. I can't tell you. I've read a whole bunch of articles on it. I can't tell you. I'm kind of ambivalent, not really sure on how I feel, whether what occurred there, but I don't agree that the dad and everybody involved, there was some conspiracy to get Britney Spears money. I'm not going that far, but I think many mistakes were made along the lines. But what is a conservatorship? A conservatorship is a proceeding, through court where somebody petitions the court to basically become in charge of a person's money and their healthcare decision making, on where they're going to live, on a whole range of things. It's basically stripping away a person's right to self-determination in specific areas, depending on the capacity and the ability of the proposed conservatee. In this case, that would be Britney Spears. Well, she was the conservatee and her father was the conservator. Okay, that basically is where they said Britney does not have the ability to understand the consequences of her decisions, and we are not going to allow her to make certain decisions, and we're going to put that decision-making authority with her father to do these things. The situation that occurred with Britney Spears is certainly something that can occur with adult children when they're coming up, if they have drug problems, abuse problems, if they have mental illness, so on and so forth. A lot of conservatorships are brought when people get older and they haven't done an estate plan. And if you don't have an estate plan and you can no longer manage your affairs, you can no longer provide for your food, shelter, clothing, you can no longer resist fraud or undue influence, then somebody needs to be appointed to take control of their assets and pay their bills. They also need to be able to make medical decisions for them. Healthcare decision making is what we call it. There's also another type of conservatorship that we bring on a regular basis, and that is where we have a child that has developmental disabilities. When they reach the age of 18, the parents no longer have the authority to make decisions for them. So they get one of the things we call, it's called a limited conservatorship. And that's usually just for making medical decisions and where they're going to live and things like that. It's still a probate conservatorship. It's just a special type of one. And in probate conservatorships for Britney Spears or somebody that's elderly, there are two types. There's a conservatorship over the estate, which deals with the money, the finances, the property. And then there's a conservatorship over the person, which deals with where they're going to live, whether they can get married, who their social contacts will be, and all of their medical and healthcare decision making.
So what is the difference between a conservatorship and a guardianship in California?
In California, it's very simple. A guardianship is done for individuals that need to have somebody that's under 18. So the proposed conservatee is a child, right? So you go from a guardianship sometimes to a conservatorship once they reach 18. However, parents don't need to go in and get a guardianship. They are the legal guardians of their child. Okay, guardianships oftentimes occur where you have a parent, okay, that is no longer capable of taking care of a child. This happens a lot where you have alcohol or drug addiction or abandonment. I've represented many grandmothers that come in and take and become guardians, and sometimes there's fights over this. Right? It's not pretty. Sometimes there isn't a fight, and it's just that, some children will say, yeah, I need to let my parent, my mom or my dad take control of my kid because I just can't do it, right? And it's all of these things are done, whether it's a guardianship or a conservatorship. The court always uses this principle, and if you understand this will help you understand everything that they do. The decision that the court makes and that the conservator or the guardian makes with respect to that ward or that conservatee has to be in their best interest.
So if there's someone who feels that their family member might need a conservatorship, what are some of the mental states or behaviors that somebody may exhibit that may indicate that they need this, that a conservatorship is necessary?
Sure. Well, I mean, a lot of times I get contacted by adult children. They contact me and say, I don't think my parents should be driving any longer. They get lost, or they get into. I'm afraid they're going to kill themselves or somebody else. Right. That's one sign, and that's a big deal with seniors. Don't take my car keys away. That could be the very end, right, of a relationship. Right. I just as an aside, my mom, God bless her soul, she's passed away. But near the end, she was taking out that car, and I'd go out and look at it. And I go, Mom, what happened to the car? What did you do? There's like another scratch. She goes, oh, is there? I don't remember. She never. I think she did remember. She didn't want to tell me because I was real close to Mom. You can't drive anymore. You got to take an Uber. Come on, I'll pay for it. Right. But in any event, that's one of the first things. Forgetting things, not paying bills. I'd like to say leaving the stove on, but I get yelled at that all the time from my wife. So hopefully I don't need a conservatorship, right? But but not paying the bills on things that are very important: property taxes, mortgages, electricity gets shut off, right? Not opening up stacks of unopened mail. That's also a good one, right? Finding out that there's charges on bank accounts or in credit cards that they can't explain and they have no idea how they occurred, right? Entering into an agreement, with somebody for a ridiculous amount of money. Okay. That goes more towards the inability to resist fraud and undue influence, which is another one of those criteria that the court will use to establish a conservatorship over somebody. So when you see these things, right, it depends. Sometimes if people come to me early enough, a person may have some issues with cognitive functioning, but they're still able to create a power of attorney and an advanced healthcare directive, and a simple trust, and we can avoid the conservatorship. Sometimes it's too far gone, or sometimes, the elderly person is not willing to sign anything, and therefore you still have to go into court and get it. But conservatorships, understand, they last the entire lifetime of that person. And every year you have to file reports and accountings with the court if it's over the estate. And it can become very, very, very expensive to get a conservatorship established. Can easily run into the tens of thousands of dollars. If they're disputed, they can be huge, because a lot of time it's a fight over control, who should be in control. And sometimes, even if you've got that trust and that power of attorney and this advanced healthcare directive, the people are fighting over who should be in charge. And there's allegations. You did this wrong. You stole. You did this. Oh, that's not valid. You still need to go into court and get a conservatorship.
But once it's in place for good. How long does it take? What is the process to get a conservatorship in California?
So right now, the last conservatorship I filed, we filed it last week. I think we got a hearing date of May 8th. That's the hearing date. Okay. It takes a good 6-7 hours of time to collect all the information and draft all the pleadings, to submit to the court to then get that hearing date. In the meantime, there's other things that need to be obtained and provided to the court. This is in an undisputed conservatorship proceeding. There has to be the first thing. There has to be a capacity declaration on file, meaning that a doctor, right, or a licensed a psychiatrist or psychologist has to fill out a 4-page form that asks them all these questions and asks them whether they think a conservatorship is necessary. There's attachments to that if somebody is on any sort of psychotropic medications, right? Because you need a specific court order that's going to allow the administration of psychotropic meds in order to help that person to be able to function more regularly. And the courts and society, thank you, and the courts are really starting to look at that even more closely than they have in the past, right? Then on top of that, all of these reports need to get done. Where is the person living? Is that an appropriate place for them to live? You must, if you are in charge of a conservator over the person, if you're the conservator of the person, you have to allow that person to live, or what we call place them, in the least restrictive environment possible. Sometimes people will say, oh no, my mom, if they have Alzheimer's, sometimes people are wanderers, right? Can you put them in a secured facility where they can't get out? Well, you need a specific court order for that. You just can't lock people up, thankfully, right? So these are just so many different things that you need to think about and understand when you're bringing these things. So it takes, like I said, it takes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours to get everything ready. You file it with the court. Then on that first hearing date, if you've done everything right, which is sometimes hard to do, then the court will issue a ruling and grant that conservatorship. And then there's a ton of work to do after that.
Let's talk about the conservator for people who are perhaps looking at this for their family member and they would become the conservator. What responsibilities would they be taking on?
It is a huge responsibility. And as I tell my clients, it's a labor of love. Okay. You are going to be looked at and second guessed on everything you do, right? So you need to document what you're doing and why you're doing it. And if you're not sure that you should do something, again, you can go to court and you can ask the court, is this the right thing to do? It's not actually done in that way. It's basically saying, this is what I propose to do, and I'm asking the court to approve that. Not to say, Judge, what do I do in this situation? No, they don't do that. They don't give you advice. What you do say is, here's the situation. This is what I'm proposing to do. And then the court, you have to give notice to everybody involved. You have to give notice out when you're establishing the conservatorship to everybody within the second degree of lineage. Okay. Sometimes I have lists of 30 people that we have to send stuff out to. I mean, that in and of itself takes 2.5, 3 hours sometimes to put out all this stuff. And all of those people have the right to come to court and to state, I don't want that person to be here. I don't like this. Boom. I mean, it can become a real circus. In most situations, it's not like that. Most situations, you have families, they do get along. Everybody loves each other. They're concerned with mom or dad, right? And it's not disputed, but it still is a heck of a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Most situations don't turn out like the Britney Spears case, we hope.
No, but like anything else, think about it. How many, millions and millions of dollars are involved here? And where there's millions and millions of dollars involved, there's going to be litigation.
Mm-hmm. Well, is a conservatorship something that somebody can pursue without a lawyer? And how does a lawyer benefit them in these types of situations?
Well, certainly. Again, our court system is set up so that you do not have to have a lawyer to go to court and represent yourself, But as Mark Twain said, a person that represents themselves in court has a fool for a client, right? And, I am able, when you hire an attorney, that attorney, all right, if they're an experienced attorney in the area, which is I assume that's who you would go to, I've been through this time and time again. I know the traps. I know where I have to be careful. I know why the court is making a decision. I can give you very good advice on how to deal with these various things. Just in filing the paperwork, there's 10, 11, 12, 13 different things that you have to complete. And if you don't get it right, then the court says, come back in 2 months. And if you don't get it right the next time, come back in 2 months. Right? So you want to get it right the first time. It can actually end up saving you money, right? And again, the court does not look fondly on people that do things. If they don't have an attorney, one of your excuses can't be, well, I didn't get an attorney because I was trying to save money for the estate, for mom or dad. I didn't want to spend the money on the attorney, and that's why I did it wrong, because I didn't know. Not an excuse the judge looks fondly upon. Sorry.
Vinny, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. Always good to see you.
It's nice to see you.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been lawyer Vinny Casiano. I want to remind you, if you'd like to ask Vinny questions about your situation, go to askthelawyer.com. Click the button at the top of the page that says Ask a Lawyer, and it will walk you through the very simple process. Thanks for watching. I'm Molly Hendrickson for Ask the Lawyers.